Tim Mergens here with Josh Munter at Apex Physical Therapy. I want to talk a little bit today about specifically overhead positioning in relation to an overhead press, but this can kind of translate into anything where I'm coming overhead, whether on a pull-up bar, kettlebell overhead press, you name it. But before we talk about overhead press, we got to make sure that we have capacity to go overhead. So I'm going to use Josh as an example here. He's got pretty good range of motion through his shoulder. Go ahead and step to the side facing that wall if you could. First thing we got to test is, again, overhead capacity. So if we bring him into his arm up into what we call shoulder flexion here, we notice that he can maintain a pretty good overhead position. Arm is straight, rib cage is level, so he's not, go ahead and overextend for me. He's not coming up this way to gain motion overhead. He can keep that rib cage down. He can keep his glutes active and on to kind of lock his pelvis into place and still maintain this nice firm overhead position. We can also kind of take his arm here and rotate this around to see if we're missing any corners in that overhead capacity, but he does pretty good. So that's really test number one. If we can pass that test, then we can go ahead and step up to a bar. So go ahead and grab that bar. I'm going to grab it about shoulder width, right outside the shoulders, and step out of that rack for me. And before he's going to take this overhead, he's still going to maintain his position and make sure that's set. So it's going to start at my feet, making sure my heels are firmly planted, going to work its way up to the pelvis. I'm going to squeeze his glutes, keep that rib cage nice and packed so he's nice and hard here, and go ahead and press up for me. And he's going to punch through. So at the top of this position, you notice this bar is still in line with his midline and all the way down to his heels. So nice strong overhead. Go back down and do a couple reps for me. He's going to press this nice and close to his face, punch his head through at the top. So this bar basically moves in a straight line. It's not getting out and away from him, which is kind of a common thing. So if we have that full overhead capacity first, we go ahead and take this overhead. Go ahead and lock the one more rep overhead for me. And again, nice stable position. As long as we can do this pain-free, we're probably still safe to go ahead with any overhead pressing, probably okay up on a pull-up bar as well. But make sure we have that overhead capacity empty at my shoulder joint first before I'm able to grab a bar and load that pattern.